Hello everyone, my name is Srijan De. I am a first semester B.Ed trainee at Ramakrishna Mission Shikshan Mandir. My topic of discussion for today would be levels of teaching, memory, understanding and reflective level. So in the first slide you can see that I have included a pyramid which shows the sequential distribution of this level. That means memory level is the least thoughtful level given by Herbert, which is at the bottom of the pyramid. Then comes the understanding level, which is a bit more thoughtful level as compared to memory level given by Morrison, which is at the middle of the pyramid. And the most important, the reflective level, which is the most thoughtful level given by Hunt, is at the top. In 1967, Maurice L. Biggie, along with his pupils, classified the learning process into three levels: memory level, understanding level, and reflective level. So, in the next slides, we will be talking about memory level. So, the definitions and aims of memory level of teaching. So, memory level refers to the process which concerns rote memorization of material taught. That means we are just memorizing or rote learning the materials which has been given to us. It is based on stimulus response theory of learning. Herbert is the profounder of the model of memory level of teaching. What are the aims? To get factual information through rote learning, to reproduce and retain the learned information when required. That means the facts, the factual informations which we are learning, we have to retain it in our memory, then we have to recall it, and lastly we have to remember it or recognize it whenever needed. So the next slide talks about the salient features of memory level of teaching. So memory level of teaching is useful for students in the lower classes since their intellect is under development. Like from class 1 to 4, since the cognitive abilities of the learners are not so well developed, so this type of teaching is very crucial or very important at this lower level. It's usually the first level of learning factual information. Memory level learning trains memory to retain maximum information and quickly recall when required. Teachers present factual information before the learner. The whole effort revolves around knowledge acquisition through rote learning. The teaching learning process is teacher oriented, not learner oriented. That means teacher play a very important role in this particular level of learning because teacher plays the most active role, the dominant role, and the students play the passive role. For example, writing the chemical symbols of the element, multiplication tables, dates and sequence of historical events, etc. That means if we need to write a symbol of calcium, so we need to first memorize the symbols, otherwise we won't be able to write it down. Same goes for multiplication tables. We have to know the multiplication table of 2, 3, 5, 4, 6 and the dates and sequence of historical events. So we have to rote memorize it or we have to mug up these things, otherwise we won't be able to remember and reproduce it whenever it is needed. So in the next slide you can see that the framework of memory level of teaching, which includes syntax, social system, support system and evaluation system. So syntax includes nature of the subject matter and presentation. That means how you are going to present the subject to the learner so that they gets the effective understanding and retention. Social system includes role of the teacher, role of the learners. Support system includes the method utilized, nature of motivation, and the evaluation system includes testing process. So here I have included a figure which shows the four phases of memory level of learning, that is learning, retention, recall and lastly recognition. So memory level of teaching, the syntax. So nature of the subject matter and presentation. How the subject matter will be presented to the learners has been discussed over here. So subject matter should be selected judiciously and should be presented in a systematic manner to facilitate proper retention and recall. That means we have to organize the subject material in such a way, in a very systematic way, so that the learner is able to recall and retain it in their memory. Now, social system includes role of teacher. The role of teacher is very authoritarian, dominant, and teachers play the key active role. Role of learning is passive role. No freedom of knowledge creation is there. So the next slide talks about the support system. Now, under support system, I have included method used. So teacher dominated method used like drill. Now what is drill? Drill is nothing but repetition or practice for the purpose of attaining efficiency in memorization. That means I want to attain efficiency in memorization. I have to memorize it in a very good way. So this drill tells you about that. Then comes the review and revision, and lastly asking questions. So examples of methods employed are lecture method, blackboard method, deductive method. Nature of motivation is extrinsic because students engage themselves due to external factors such as fear of punishment, favor of the teacher. So the next slide talks about the evaluation system. How the evaluation system going to be? Evaluation system is will be like oral, written, multiple choice question, short type questions, etc. So there shouldn't be very critical and analytical questions included in this evaluation system of memory level of teaching. So what are the merits and demerits? Merits is that it is useful for children at the lower level since their intellect is under development, useful for slow learners. And the demerits are students don't get a chance for self-learning as teacher play a dominant role. As it mainly focuses on rote learning, so it can't be applied to higher classes. Next, we will be talking about understanding level of teaching. So at this level, the learners are required to comprehend factual information, to know the meaning of different concepts and their relationships, and to apply facts, concepts, and principles. It is supported by the Herbartian theory of apperception, which states that this level of teaching seeks the learner to acquaint himself with the relationship between the facts and principle. That means the learner has to have that capability to establish a relationship between the facts and principle. Here you have to have a profound subject knowledge, as well as you have to have the skills to interconnect that subject knowledge with the real life situations. So this is the main focus of this understanding level of teaching. Here the mental development of learner is at higher level than the memory level. His cognitive abilities are well developed. So what are the objectives? So the main objectives are to understand the meaning of acquired facts, to seek generalization out of facts, to apply generalized facts in real life. So the nature of the subject matter would be wide and vast. Now what are the methods that we should employ? Lecture method, lecture cum demonstration method, discussion method, inductive and deductive method, exemplification and explanation. Exemplification is like examples, and then we are going to explain that. Nature of motivation will be same like that of memory level extrinsic. Now what is the role of the teacher? Unlike in memory level, the role of the teacher over here is not so dominant and authoritarian. This type of teaching is too much subject specific or subject centered, so teacher has to take care of the fact that students gain complete mastery over the subject matter. That means subject matter plays a very important role in this particular level of teaching. And what would be the role of the learner? The role of the learner is active in acquiring the desired understanding of the learned facts. Evaluation system is like oral, written, practical exams, short type questions, etc. Now, merits and demerits. So what are the merits? Effective learning, development of different cognition abilities, sets stage for entering into the reflective level of teaching, effective classroom interaction. Now the demerits are, it is very much teacher centered, less emphasis on intrinsic motivation. So in the next slide, we will be talking about the last level or the most thoughtful level, which is the reflective level of teaching. Maurice L. Biggie defines reflection as careful critical examination of an idea or supposed article of knowledge in the light of testing evidence which support it and further conclusion towards which is points. So reflective level teaching does not depend upon the memorization, understanding of concepts and their application only. It demands the use of higher mental processes such as reasoning, thinking, analyzing concept, imagination. That means this level of teaching we can employ in higher studies like in research, PhDs, postdoc, because here reasoning, thinking, analyzing concept, imagination are given more importance, right? So this is like kind of independent learning which we see in higher studies. So what are the objectives? The objectives are to develop problem solving attitude among students, to develop critical and creative thinking among students, to develop original and independent thinking among students. What are the characteristic features? It is also known as introspective level of teaching, because teaching does not end until the student have grasped the idea. Also, it is beyond comprehension and requires student to focus on what they have understood. In other words, we can say that it supports metacognition. Why? Because introspective level, that means learner engage in self-examination to gain a deeper understanding of their own thought. Moreover, they think thinking about their own thought, which we see in metacognition. That means if I know a concept about something, so I should have that ability to reconstruct that concept, think over that concept, analyze that concept, which metacognition tells us to do. So that is why reflective level of teaching supports metacognition or deals with metacognition. Next comes the subject matter. The subject matter at this level is quite unstructured and is in the form of problem raising and problem solving. Role of the teacher. Teacher doesn't play dominant role at this level. He has to play quite responsible, democratic and cooperative role. He acts as a guide. That means teacher is just a facilitator, just a guide who will guide you in the right or wrong direction, in the right direction. He will tell you which is right and which is wrong, but he is not going to help you in this journey. That means we have to, the students or the learners have to explore. The teacher is only there to show you the path. Now, role of the learner. Learner occupy primary place at this level of teaching. Learner has to make use of his cognition abilities and has to remain active in class. Method used: problem solving method, investigating projects, heuristic method, experimental method, inquiry oriented method, analytic method. What is heuristic method? Heuristic method is trial and error method. For example, in PhD we have to generate hypothesis, and by using that hypothesis we have to frame an experiments, right? So sometimes many times what happens is that the experiments which we have framed, the result comes out wrong. So what we have to do, we have to repeat it again, redo it again. So this error and trial and error. So this method that is known as heuristic method, which we see, which we do in PhDs and postdocs, because there we have to do it by our own self. The guide or the supervisor is there just to tell you that no, you can't do this, you can do that. That means they are just playing the role of a guide. But all the experiments and all the hypotheses we have to generate by our own self. So that where reflective level of teaching plays a very important role. So nature of motivation is intrinsic because all learning activities depend upon the felt needs of the learner. Evaluation system at the reflective level of teaching should test the higher order cognitive abilities like reasoning, creativity, original thinking, problem solving and critical thinking. Now, what are the merits and demerits? Merits are it is the most thoughtful level of operation, learner centered, highly thoughtful and application based, encourages independent learning. It can't be applied to small children. To attain this level, prior knowledge of previous two levels, that means the memory level and understanding level, should be achieved. So this was all about the reflective level. So that means we get an idea of all the three levels, and yeah, this was all about today's lecture. If it helps you, please do like, share, comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.